The two travelers. Once upon a time, in a bustling town where the streets were always alive with the sounds of merchants calling out their goods and children laughing in the alleyways, two men prepared for a new week. They lived in the same neighborhood, walked the same streets, and even worked in the same company. Yet, despite their shared circumstances, their lives were vastly different. One of them, James, awoke with a heavy heart. As he stared at the ceiling of his small apartment, a familiar voice echoed in his mind, "Why is my life still the same? Nothing ever changes. No matter what I do, I can't seem to get ahead." He sighed, dragging himself out of bed, already dreading the day. The other, Daniel, woke up with a different energy. The first thing he did was smile and stretch. He took a deep breath and whispered, "Thank you for another day." He thought about the challenges ahead, but instead of feeling overwhelmed, he felt excited. Another chance to improve, to grow, to make something of himself. Two men, same world, yet completely different perspectives. As they walked to work, their paths crossed near the old stone bridge at the edge of town. An elderly man sat on the bridge's ledge, watching the water flow beneath. His name was Elias, a man known for his wisdom and insight. He often spoke in parables, guiding those who sought answers. He beckoned them both over. "Tell me, young men, what do you see in your future?" James shrugged. "Honestly? More of the same. I try, but life never changes. I'm stuck, always worrying, always second-guessing myself." Daniel, standing beside him, replied with a different tone. "I see opportunity. Sure, things aren't perfect, but I know that if I keep learning and growing, good things will come." Elias nodded, stroking his beard. Ah, two men standing in the same place, yet looking at two different horizons. "Tell me, which of you is right?" James frowned. "I mean, he's just being overly positive. Life is hard, and sometimes, you just have to accept that things don't always go your way." Elias chuckled. "And so, it shall be for you." He turned to Daniel. "And you? Why do you believe differently?" Daniel smiled. "Because I've seen it. When I focus on what's possible, I find solutions. When I dwell on failure, I only see problems. It's all in how I choose to see it." Elias clapped his hands together. "Ah. And so, it shall be for you. The thoughts you hold on to will shape the life you live. You see, my young friends, your mind is the lens through which you experience life. If you believe the world is full of hardship, that is what you will see. But if you believe it is full of possibility, then opportunities will appear where others see obstacles." James scoffed. "It's not that simple." Elias smiled knowingly. "Ah, but it is. Pause for a moment and reflect. What thoughts do you hold on to the most? Are they empowering or limiting? Today, decide to shift just one negative thought into a positive one. The hidden truth." That night, James sat alone in his dimly lit apartment, staring at the ceiling. He thought about what Elias had said, but he couldn't bring himself to believe it. After all, wasn't life just a series of disappointments? He had tried in the past, applied for promotions, worked hard, even took risks. But somehow, nothing ever changed. Meanwhile, Daniel sat in his small study, flipping through an old book his grandmother had given him years ago. It contained wisdom from generations past, lessons on life and mindset. One passage caught his eye. "As a man thinks in his heart, so is he." He repeated the words softly. As a man thinks. Could it be true? Could his thoughts really be shaping his life? Curious, he decided to test it. The next morning, he wrote down every negative thought that crept into his mind and replaced it with something positive. He posted affirmations on his mirror, on his desk at work, even set reminders on his phone. Try this yourself, write down 3 negative thoughts that frequently enter your mind. Then, rewrite them into positive affirmations and place them somewhere visible. Repeat them daily. The battle within. A few weeks passed. Daniel started noticing small changes. He felt more energized. Conversations with colleagues became more positive. He even caught his manager noticing his enthusiasm. Opportunities he once ignored suddenly seemed within reach. James, however, felt stuck. He couldn't understand why Daniel was thriving while he remained in the same rut. One day, as they walked home, James finally asked, "How do you do it? How do you stay so positive?" Daniel smiled. "I changed my mind." James frowned. "That's it? Just thinking happy thoughts?" "No," Daniel replied. "I started choosing my thoughts. Every time I think I can't do something, I replace it with a truth that says I can. It's like training a muscle. At first, it's hard, but over time, it becomes natural." Be mindful of your inner dialogue today. When a negative thought arises, stop and replace it with a positive one. Keep track of how many times you do this. The turning point. Weeks turned into months. Daniel continued training his mind, and soon, his life reflected the change. He was promoted at work. He started new projects with confidence. He even encouraged others, sharing what he had learned. James, meanwhile, remained skeptical. One night, he sat alone, reflecting on his life. He thought back to his childhood, to the dreams he once had. What had changed? When did he start believing he wasn't capable? He realized that somewhere along the way, he had accepted a story that wasn't true. Look back at your past beliefs. Are there any limiting beliefs you've held on to? Challenge them today. Ask yourself, are they really true? Victory in the mind. Months later, James and Daniel met again on the same bridge where Elias had first spoken to them. This time, James had a different look in his eyes. "I see it now," he said. Elias, who had been watching the river, turned to him with a smile. "And what do you see?" James took a deep breath. "Hope. Opportunity. Purpose." Elias nodded. "Then that is the life you shall have. Decide today to take control of your thoughts. What is one step you can take right now to shift your mindset? Write it down and commit to it." Moral of the story. Your thoughts shape your world. You are not your failures. You are not your doubts. You are what you choose to believe about yourself. So, change your mind, change your life.
It's caught in the crossfire.